Welcome back to the Cynthia Clark Book Club. We are reading Chapter 3 of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. If you need a copy of the book, you can get it for free on my website. And the best way to find my website is to do a Google search on Cynthia Clark Book Club. That's the easiest way to get to my website. The first thing that's going to come up when you do your Google search is my Facebook page. If we're not Facebook friends, I'd love to be a Facebook friend, so you can send me a friend request. Then you're going to see a list of videos, YouTube videos, and then after that you're going to see my web page, which is done through Wix. So do a Google search, Cynthia Clark Book Club, and go to my website. Once you get there, if you click on the image of the book or any of the books that I have on my homepage, it will give you a free PDF of that book, and it's okay to read them for free because all of the books are in the public domain, so they're public property for now. So anyway, we are reading Chapter 3 of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, and this is how the book club works. Of course, I post the video in YouTube. I post the video as a status on my Facebook page, and then of course I put it on my website. If there's a comment that I make on the video, or there's something in the chapter that resonates with you, or if something that I said about the book in general, or any of the videos that I have on my website, you can post a comment and we can have a conversation. Otherwise, I'll just do one of the things that I like doing anyway, which is reading into a webcam, because I find it very therapeutic. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read this chapter, and as I read the chapter, I am going to give my 2 cents about what I think I'm reading. So we're just going to get right into it. This is again Chapter 3 of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. It says, "Is opportunity monopolized? No one is kept poor because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. At different periods of time, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution which has been reached. There is abundance of opportunity for the person who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it." So what this makes me think about is the fact that there are many people that think that because there are already wealthy people in the world that they can't get wealth. They don't think that there's an abundance of wealth and that people have monopolized it. But according to this guy, he's saying it's not monopolized. There's an abundance, and if you want some, you get some. The other thing that I like so far is the fact that he said at different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions. And when I read that, it makes me think about the fact that I work on different projects at different times. And sometimes when I'm working on one particular project, it may stop working. I may get to a standstill. And what I found for me is that when I get to that point, I should back up off of that project. It depends. Sometimes you just gotta just keep going and break through, but sometimes you get this feeling. You gotta get to the point where you're very intuitive, which is what I'm learning, to listen to that little voice, my intuition. And so it tells me when I hit a bump or get to a standstill or something with a particular project, or resistance from other people with a particular project. I know, based on learning how to read my intuition, if I should just back up off of it and work on another project, or if I should keep going. And so when I read that statement, it made me think about that. So like right now I'm working on maybe 3 projects, and I know which one I should be working on. And if I start working on one and it's going well, and then I get to a certain point, it's just kind of comes to a grind, then I know just leave that one alone and go to the next one. Anyway, let's keep reading. So workers are either as individuals or as a class are not deprived of opportunity. I gotta read that again. So workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being ground by the trust in big business. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. Ooh, no excuses, huh? Keep going. The working class may become the master class whenever they will begin to do things in a certain way. This author talks about the certain way a lot, especially in the beginning of the book. And as we get to the points where he brings those things out, I'm going to highlight it because this is one of those books that you read and it's kind of awkward when he gets to those major topics or those major points. It's not accentuated, and so it's easy to miss. So when we get to the certain way that he talks about, I'll highlight that. Anyway, the working class may become the master class whenever they will begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. The individual worker, however, is not held down by an entire class's ignorance of these laws. He can follow the tide of opportunity to riches, and this book will tell him how. I'm going to read that again using the female principle. It says, the individual worker, however, is not held down by an entire class's ignorance of these laws. She can follow the tide of opportunity to riches, and this book will tell her how. No one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. When I read that, I don't see some people don't believe that, or they don't talk like that's the case. And I can tell when they complain about what wealthy people have, especially wealthy people that came up from poverty. Look, if there's a wealthy, I'll bring one of my favorite CEOs is Howard Schultz, founder and CEO, chairman of Starbucks. He started out poor in the projects in the Bronx, and among others. When I hear people whine and complain about how much money these people make, they started out nowhere and they did what they needed to do. They did a lot of the principles that's in this book. Not that they read the book, but now they're where they are, and it's like, oh, they make all that money. They're millionaires. They're billionaires. And in my mind, it's like, well, damn, they worked for it, and if you want some of it, why don't you figure fucking something out? Anyway, so let's keep going. Let me read that again. No one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A palace as large as the capital of Washington might be built for every family on earth from the building material in the United States alone. And under intensive cultivation, this country will produce wool, cotton, linen, and silk enough to clothe each person in the world finer than Solomon was arrayed in all of his glory, together with food enough to feed all luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance, out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and older ones are dissolving, but all are shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance. When he says that, it makes me think of clay. Let's keep going. No, it makes me think of clay. When I think of, every time he says stuff, I think about like this clay that you mold into whatever you want. Anyway, let's go back. It says the universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance, with the formless stuff, with the raw material of all things. 10,000 times as much as has been made might still be made. And even then, we should not have exhausted the supply of universal raw material. There's enough clay to make whatever you want. Let's keep going. No one, I put that clay thing in there. Anyway, no one therefore is poor because nature is poor, or because there is not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible, come on, lost my place. Okay. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building material is exhausted, more will be produced. When the soil is exhausted so that foodstuffs and materials for clothing will no longer grow upon it, it will be renewed, or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, if humanity is still in such a stage of social development that it needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. Every time I read that part about the gold and silver, and it says humanity is still in need of it, it makes me think of the fact that we place value on things. And so gold and silver, maybe here in the United States, is valuable. So you hear people say, well, the dollar bill is no longer backed by, precious metals. And so they say that it doesn't really have value because of that. Well, what makes precious metals precious? It's how you think about it. Gold and silver is not that important to me, so it's not that valuable to me, and so we give it its value by the way we perceive it. So I'm going to read that again. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, if humanity is still in such a stage of social development that it needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. The formless stuff responds to the need of mankind. It will not let the world be without any good thing. This is true of humankind collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich, and if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things which makes the individual rich. So one of the reasons I'm reading this book is because I'm a rich person. I'm working on becoming wealthy, and so I want to practice the certain way. I want to read about these things in books and then implement them in my life and see how it works out. But I'm going to read that again. It says, this is true of mankind collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things which makes the individual rich. Okay. The formless stuff is intelligent. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive and is always impelled towards more life. When he talks about this formless stuff, not only do I think about like clay, I also think about the force in Star Wars. Let's keep going. It is the natural inherent and inherent impulse of life to seek to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself and of conscience to seek to extend its boundaries and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. I'm going to read that again. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life, and its impelling motive is the increase of life. Because of this, everything which can possibly miniature to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict himself and nullify his own works. I'm going to read that in female principle because I'm a female. So anyway, there can be no lack unless the goddess is to contradict herself and nullify her own works. You are kept poor by lack in the supply of riches. It is a fact which I shall demonstrate a little farther on, that even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way. He keeps talking about this certain way. I cannot wait to find out what it is so that I can act in a certain way. Anyway, that was chapter 3. Very short chapter. In each chapter, they have a little note, which is kind of like the bullet point for each chapter. They have little notes. So I'm going to read the notes and then I'm going to record chapter 4. So anyway, it says, no one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. And this is why I do not hate on wealthy people, especially the ones that work, they worked for it. And even the ones that didn't. I don't hate on wealthy people. So they're wealthy. It's not like there's not enough for me to get mine too. That's the way I think about it. So I don't trip on that and whine and complain and bitch and moan about wealthy people. When I hear people do that, it's like, well, you must not believe you can become wealthy. So that's why you bitch and moan and complain about somebody else having it, and you're not possibly maybe willing to do what the hell they did or do something even more creative than they did to get money. You rather whine and complain about it. Anyway, the next little bullet point. The resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way. And again, one of the reasons I'm reading this book is because I want to act and think in a certain way. I do it to a certain degree and I get manifestations. I just want to increase in that area. And I think that's it. I think those are all the notes. Hold on, let's see. Yep, that's it. That's chapter 3. If there's something in this video, or this particular chapter, or the book period, maybe you read the whole book and you want to chit chat about it, then we can have a conversation about it. You can just post your comment either, you can post your comment on Facebook or in YouTube. And If you have a YouTube subscription, I'd love for you to subscribe to me. And if your profile is public, then I'll subscribe to you as well. So you can launch this video in YouTube, watch it there, and then subscribe, and then I'll subscribe to you. So if there's something in the video that resonated or you want to talk about it, then post a comment and we can have a conversation. And that's it. I'm going to go ahead and read the next chapter in another video. Go to my website. Talk to you later. Bye.